This is the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
Okay, guys, let's just rip. And Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall. Chris, thanks for being with me tonight.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Now, he puts the broad in broadband. It's Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
It's Friday, the 12th day of May. Thank you so much for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast, Mother's Day weekend. Happy Mother's Day, Mama. Happy birthday to my wife, my stepmom, all you moms in this audience. Love our moms. And don't forget, because we're running a Mother's Day special now through Sunday, if you want to become a Harump Society member, it's just $30 for the whole year. $30 for the whole year. $2.50 a month. That goes away Sunday and goes back to the regular price because the accountant at Stigall.com is angry. So ChrisStigall.com. Go to ChrisStigall.com and click on the Harump Society logo, and that'll take you right to Substack, and you can become a monthly subscriber. I hope you will. Got a great new post today coming up, as a matter of fact, that I think you'll enjoy. I do it 3 times a week. And coming up today, have you ever seen a grown man weep and cry and beg for forgiveness on his own television show? You'll hear it today from Anderson Cooper. I'm also going to go over some remarks I made last night at the Phyllis Schlafly Eagle Forum in the Pennsylvania Eagles chapter of the Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. They were kind enough to give us the Truth in Journalism Award last night in Philadelphia. What an honor it was. And because of time, I edited my remarks, but I wanted to share more of them in full here today. So going to get into that. The border is completely overrun, and just in the last 24 hours since Title 42 went away, even the Washington Post has to confess it. So we'll get into that tragedy as well as many others. But like I say, we'll end on a high note. You'll be highly entertained when you listen to the whining and bedwetting going on at CNN. Let me tell you about the guy that wants to save you big-time money on your health insurance cost. Are you buying your health insurance out of pocket? Are you a young person? If you're a young person listening to me and you buy your own health insurance, if you don't call John Ruhlman, it's one of the dumbest things to do to ignore this message, because you could be saving hundreds, probably thousands of dollars a month. If you get your own health insurance through work, it may well be that a group plan is not the best because, 1, it may not cover you in full. 2, you may be paying way too much covering insurance stuff that you don't need. I mean, if you're a guy, women's health insurance issues don't apply to you. So you may want to call John and give him a couple of minutes and tell him what kind of insurance you have. He may save you hundreds of dollars a month. He may get you into programs that will pay you if you ever, God forbid, need hospitalization. And you seniors who are on a fixed income and you need a supplemental program, I mean, that's a no-brainer, saving money. And then those of you who run small businesses, you buy health insurance plans for your group. Have you had somebody really shop it that knows 80 to 100 different private insurers out there who could get you the best rates? Most people don't do the groundwork and the homework that John Ruhlman does. It's usmedicalplan.com, usmedicalplan.com, or call 877-410-4321. This might be, Jon Stewart used to do the moment of Zen on The Daily Show. This might be your moment of Zen for the week. You ready for this? Last night, Anderson Cooper went on his little show that nobody watches on CNN and said, "I wouldn't blame you if you never watched me again." Now that's fascinating. That is some self-flagellation if ever I've heard it. I wouldn't blame you if you never watched me again. I understand why you hate our guts. They are, as I told you, their heads were exploding. They were melting down. This Trump town hall Wednesday night, they are desperate to try to recover the 5 people that still watch their network who are furious at them for even putting him on the air. Remember what AOC said? He does not deserve this platform. AOC went over there on MSNBC and she told all of the rabid flying monkeys of the Marxist socialist bunch that vote for her and people like her, she told them all that CNN just engaged in something dangerous, something that deserved to be deplatformed. Trump did not deserve the platform to speak. All right, so last night, because of that, CNN has done nothing but take incoming for the last 24 hours. So Anderson Cooper felt compelled to do the only thing he knew to do. Go on his show and say, I get it. I'm sorry, and I don't blame you if you never watch me again. This is really something. I mean, just sit back and enjoy this, because I thoroughly did.
Many of you have expressed deep anger and disappointment. Many of you are upset that someone who attempted to destroy our democracy was invited to sit on a stage in front of a crowd of Republican voters to answer questions and predictably continued to spew lie after lie after lie. And I get it. It was disturbing. It was disturbing to see and hear that person refer to a black law enforcement officer as a thug, an adjective he used many times to describe black men, and call Caitlin Collins, the moderator, nasty, which is what he calls any woman who stands up to him. It was disturbing to hear him speak so highly of QAnon conspirators and insurrectionists who assaulted police officers in our democracy on January 6th. And it was awful to hear him spread ridiculous lies about the election. And it was certainly disturbing to hear that audience, young and old, our fellow citizens, people who love their kids and go to church, laugh and applaud his lies and his continued defamation of a woman who, according to a jury of his peers, he's sexually abused and defamed. As good a job as Caitlin Collins did trying to fact check him, it is impossible to fact check fully because he lies so shamelessly. Now, many of you think CNN shouldn't have given him any platform to speak, and I understand the anger about that, giving him the audience, the time, I get that. But this is what I also get. The man you were so disturbed to see and hear from last night, that man is the front runner for the Republican nomination for president. And according to polling, no other Republican is even close. That man you were so upset to hear from last night, he may be president of the United States in less than 2 years. And that audience that upset you, that's a sampling of about half the country. They are your family members, your neighbors, and they are voting. And many said they're voting for him. Now, maybe you haven't been paying attention to him since he left office. Maybe you've been enjoying not hearing from him, thinking it can't happen again. Some investigation is going to stop him. Well, it hasn't so far. So if last night showed anything, it showed it can happen again. It is happening again. He hasn't changed. And he is running hard. You have every right to be outraged today and angry and never watch this network again.
What?
But do you think staying in your silo and only listening to people you agree with is going to make that person go away?
I don't know how to break this to you, Anderson, but that's exactly what your network does. That's what all you people do. Yes, you've taught them that staying in their silo is precisely what they're to expect from you. They're mad at you because that's what you do. Remember, Rachel Maddow, NPR, they promised, we'll never let you hear anything you don't like. We know it's lies. We know it's propaganda. We'll keep it from you until we think you need to hear it. They literally promise these things to their audiences.
Is making remarks tonight from his home in Florida. As far as we can tell, and what we were prepared for here is that this is basically a campaign speech in which he is repeating his same lies and allegations against his perceived enemies. It is just getting started. So far, he's just giving his normal list of grievances. We don't consider that necessarily newsworthy, and there's a cost to us as a news organization of knowingly broadcasting untrue things. So our deal with you is that we will monitor these remarks. If he does say anything newsworthy, we will turn them around and report on that right away. But for now, just know that it's happening and we're not taking it.
Remember, folks, Anderson Cooper is begging with the 5 viewers of CNN, don't be mad at us for putting Trump on. But what he doesn't understand is people like AOC and Rachel Maddow communicate regularly to the left. They are children. They're baby, diapered, bubble-wrapped children who can't handle hearing opposition because it's dangerous. It doesn't deserve a platform, don't you know? We'll keep it from you, promises NPR, promises MSNBC. We'll keep this stuff that you don't want to hear from you. We know how dangerous and reckless and full of lies it is. So Anderson is now pleading with his audience, listen, you can't just live in your bubble. Anderson, that's exactly the thing you've created for your viewers. All 5 of them, a bubble. You're teaching your viewers that opposition speech is violence. You created this monster. These are your fellow citizens. The sanctimony. These are your fellow citizens. These are half the country laughing at him, enjoying him. He hasn't changed a bit, and he could win again. Did you hear all those people laughing and applauding? Those are your fellow citizens. Those are family members and friends of yours. He could win again. I just thoroughly enjoyed that. They are so upset, and he is trying so hard to win back the 5 people that care about his little show. I wouldn't blame you if you never watched me again. But just think about this. You have friends and family who still like that monster, and we're just going to have to accept it, damn it. And I don't like it, neither do you, but half this country still likes him, and they applaud him, and he hasn't changed, and he's running, and he could very well win again, damn it. So don't be mad at me. I have to tell you the truth. Over there at MSNBC, they're acting like he doesn't exist. That's what they do for their viewers. We're not going to, we did propaganda, and we're not going to let you hear him. Rachel, AOC goes over there and tells them CNN should be assailed, sued, I don't know, deplatform themselves for even hosting him.
What we saw tonight is a continued demonstration of the sacrifice that women and survivors of sexual abuse across the country of all genders experience, and the sacrifices that they make in order to come forward and challenge power. And what we also saw tonight was the consequence of doing that. They sacrificed their anonymity, they sacrificed their safety, and they sacrifice all of this because we continue to live in a society where an overwhelming amount of structures allow this abuse to happen and find it permissible.
Words.
I know you said earlier that you will not comment on the platforming of such atrocious disinformation, but I would. I think it was a profoundly irresponsible decision. I don't think that I would be doing my job if I did not say that. And what we saw tonight was a series of extremely irresponsible decisions that put a sexual abuse victim at risk, that put that person at risk in front of a national audience, and I could not have disagreed with it more. It was shameful.
She's a member of Congress who feels emboldened to go on another network and call out CNN for even allowing the former president, who is the leading candidate for the nomination again. She's going on another network to assail and teach everyone viewing to assail CNN for even allowing the speech to occur, because the very presence of the man speaking on CNN is violence, don't you know? It's CNN perpetuating violence. So poor Anderson is sitting there. I know you're mad, and I don't blame you. I don't blame They do it to themselves. And they're going to continue. I guess MSNBC and NPR, I guess they're going to act like Trump doesn't exist. How long can they do that? We're going to go into an election cycle where he may become the nominee. And are they just going to act like he's not there? He's the Republican. If he becomes the Republican nominee, if Donald Trump becomes the Republican's candidate, are they just going to pretend he's not there? Maybe. Maybe their collective decision is, even allowing you to hear the other major party's nominee is too much for you, and they will keep him from you altogether. I'm perfectly willing to entertain that. Maybe what they do. Maybe we'll just stop having presidential debates altogether. We probably will. In fact, I would go ahead and mark this down. If Donald Trump does become the nominee, I bet debates don't happen. I'm serious. I bet there's not a single debate between Biden and Trump. Go ahead and mark it down. They believe the only way to stop him is to pretend that he doesn't exist. La, 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 I don't hear you. I don't see you. It's the monkeys, you know. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. La, 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 he doesn't exist. So let me ask you, can traditional media plug their ears and cover their eyes and tell their viewers Trump doesn't exist to success? Can that work? Can it work? That's the question. Sincerely. And that's what I was talking about last night. Like, we have to get beyond Fox News. All right. Like, Fox News is not where it's at, because these people, these networks, CNN, MSNBC, and the mains, Fox, Is that going to be where the totality of the voters in this country get their information? It can't be. It can't be where you get your information, because they've clearly now said there are things we're just not going to let you hear. And I don't know where that puts us as a country. If there's still just a select handful of media outlets left, and that's not true, but if there were, and they've all collectively said, we think one side of a debate is not worthy of being heard, it's just violent, and we're not going to let you hear it, where are we? So I find it fast. I wouldn't blame you if you never watch us again. Jason Perrett, he is the founder and financial advisor at Eagle Wealth Planning. He's a friend of mine, and he has a passion for getting you on proper financial footing. I don't know if you have a financial advisor. If you don't, I'd strongly urge you to make Jason yours. And you can be anywhere in the country. You don't have to be where Jason is. Jason can deal with you right over Zoom or right over the phone. He's fantastic because he focuses on producing consistent results for his clients based on their unique financial goals. His main objective is just to help you pursue your goal wherever you happen to be. Because he's a fiduciary, he's dedicated to providing clients with complete wealth management and investment services, and he constantly revisits the goals as well. He's not trying to upsell you. Jason can accomplish just about anything you need financially and keep you on track, whether you're a really advanced entrepreneur, whether you're a young person just starting out and you have no real plan at all and you need one, professionals, retirees. Maybe you're thinking about, now that I am retired, I want to make sure all my money's in proper order. Let Jason help you get it in order. Jason regularly revisits your goals, assesses your risk tolerance so that you really approach it as a team, and he helps keep you on track. That's a big part of having somebody as a partner like Jason at Eagle Wealth Planning. I hope you'll reach out. 816-394-8117. 816-394-8117. You can reach out to him through email as well, jason@eaglewealthplanning.com. His website is linked on mine at chrisstigall.com. Get together with Jason. Have a conversation with him. Tell him where you are. Maybe plan out a new path forward for your finances with Jason Perrett, a financial advisor at Eagle Wealth Planning. We thank Jason for his sponsorship. Securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisors, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, a broker-dealer, and a registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. As for the border yesterday, Alejandro Mayorkas, maybe the most gaslighty of all the gaslighters in the Biden administration. That's a tall order, but he may well win the award. This guy, he's the worst. I mean, right down to looking like Lex Luthor. He looks like a comic book villain, just like Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General. These people, they all do. Have you noticed that? All these people look like menacing creatures from a comic book villain. All of them do.
Chris, that's the Biden administration. I mean, they teed it off with the Wolf administration. I remember the Addams family before that. So it's like we can't get a visual break from any of these
They're
Democrats.
Very ugly, unfortunate people. Dianne Feinstein came back this week in the wheelchair with the shingles and the one eye and she's in a wheelchair. And Fetterman, Alejandro Mayorkas with the bald. Is there anyone attractive? Seriously, I don't even mind they're liberal. Is there someone that's at least easy on the eyes? They're all hideously ugly people. I know I'm no prize, but I'm not standing in front of a camera every day talking to people. So anyway, here is the Homeland Security Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas, yesterday, as a sea of humanity is pouring across our southern border, the end of Title 42, migrants flooding the border. They said that yesterday was even the Washington Post sent out an alert last night and said it was the single day highest total for migrants flowing across the border that has ever been recorded in United States history. Yesterday, the Washington Post, folks, said yesterday was the single highest day the United States has ever had in terms of border crossings. And yet here's this scumbag.
I want to be very clear. Our borders are not open. People who cross our border unlawfully and without a legal basis to remain will be promptly processed and removed.
This guy, I mean, he's a special kind of scumbag. He really is. Of course, blamed Republicans, ultimately. The border is not open, headline from The Hill. Do not believe the lies of the smugglers. The border is not open. The U.S. has been bracing for an influx of migrants as Title 42, a COVID-era policy that allowed for the rapid expulsion of asylum seekers, set to expire at midnight. The secretary said in the statement, starting tonight, people who arrive at the border without using a lawful pathway will be presumed ineligible for asylum. You know, Colonel Allen West last night, he said it in his speech. The United States is no longer a sovereign nation. He's just been to the border here recently. He said it here last night. We've been invaded. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. I don't mean to depress and dispirit you, but we've been invaded. 213 House Democrats vote against securing the border yesterday. With fewer than 8 hours remaining yesterday before Title 42 expired, the vote 219 to 213. 213 Democrats voted against a bill that the Republicans crafted to require President Biden and his administration to restart border wall construction, begin using new technology at the southern and northern borders, provide funding to hire more border agents and pay bonuses, increase DHS transparency so Americans know how many illegals are unlawfully entering the country, make existing laws stronger to protect unaccompanied children from trafficking and abuse, discontinue catch and release of illegal migrants, end the president's abuse of executive immigration authority, and improve the asylum process, make it more efficient. Biden formally announcing he would veto the Secure Border Act, even if it came to his desk. It would still have to go to the Senate. It's not going to make its way out of the Senate, but anyway, you get it. Meanwhile, in New York City, this is amazing. A key office under the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, sent an email to a select group of private property owners pleading for emergency space to house migrants coming to the city as a key Trump-era border policy set to end. The email starts, "We need your help." Email sent on May 9th to a private contractor by the Mayor's Office of Contract Services, which states, New York City is currently experiencing an unprecedented humanitarian crisis, and it requires spaces that are, quote, available quickly and that could be used by the city temporarily to provide immediate relief to asylum seekers. The email was sent days before the government's end of Title 42. It goes on to ask contractors, please evaluate your inventory, both spaces you own as well as other ideas you have, and let us know if there's anything available for potential use as soon as possible. You know, Colonel West also said something interesting last night. He is against the idea of these southern governors putting these illegal migrants on buses and sending them to big cities like Philadelphia and New York City. I found that rather interesting. And his argument is, he says doing that, all that does ultimately is cause these big city mayors to do what? Send these people where? Out into the burbs. And he says really all this actually does is further the objectives of the Democrats. Rather than keeping this chaos at the South, he says that activity is now just infusing thousands and thousands and thousands of illegals into what ostensibly becomes the suburbs of every major American city to the north. You agree with that or no? I'd never really heard that line of criticism before, and I'm torn because I don't know why our friends to the south should have to take on the burden all by themselves. And the point these southern governors are making is, like, if we're going to get screwed and we're going to be flooded, then we're all going to share in this chaos together, is their attitude, which I appreciate.
I agree with some of what Colonel West said, because I remember, speaking with Doug Mastriano before the election last year, and he said as much. He's just like, look, if Abbott sends buses and planes, he's like, this is the problem we were dealing with. The Biden administration was already doing this under the dark of night. They were already taking migrants and flying them to big cities. So what is the difference between what's happening now and that? And that was the first time it kind of gave me pause. And I'm like, yeah, I can see your point.
I just got a stack of madness in front of me today. I'm not entirely sure where to start. I mean, I could just literally go in any direction. The Biden administration yesterday proposed new carbon pollution standards to restrict greenhouse gas emissions released by fossil fuel power plants. Now, again, they want all of us driving electric cars, do they not? Don't they want us all behind the wheel of plug-in cars? Where the hell are we going to get all the electricity that they demand we use to plug in our cars if we continue to hamper the power grid, which is exactly what he's doing? Under the new rules, this is really, in my view, they are creating an energy crisis that is going to be so destructive to the country, it now takes priority right next to being invaded by our southern border. I believe this to be the single biggest man-made crisis the Biden administration is introducing to the country. I really do. I think they are purposely trying to destroy the energy grid. Of course, I can never prove it, but you simply just don't do these sorts of things to an already strained power grid. You don't do this to energy companies in this country unless you're trying to destroy it. It doesn't make any sense otherwise. Under the new rules provided by the EPA, nearly all of the United States coal and large gas plants would have to reduce or capture 90% of their carbon dioxide emissions in, what would it be, under 15 years, or be forced to retire them. The EPA estimated its proposal would avoid up to 617 metric tons of carbon dioxide through 2042, excuse me. Asthma. This is their new thing. All done to prevent your asthma, supposedly. The rules would prevent 300,000 asthma attacks. What? As if that's a metric you've ever heard of or could ever be projected? Cripple our energy grid to prevent 300,000 asthma attacks. So the new sales pitch is, have asthma? Well, we want to help by cracking down on energy companies. There are going to be idiots who believe this, that the coal-fired power plant that provides cheap, plentiful fuel for your entire city is causing you asthma. As well as 1,300 premature deaths. The EPA wants to prevent 1,300 premature deaths. Oh, I see. Again, as if this is a metric that they could measure. By proposing new standards for fossil fuel-fired plants, the EPA is delivering on its mission to reduce harmful pollution that threatens people's health and well-being. Folks, carbon dioxide is not a pollutant. Listen to me. Carbon dioxide is not a pollutant. Carbon dioxide is necessary in photosynthesis for your survival and mine. Why? Plants use carbon dioxide, of which, let's have another refresher. Fast Eddie, you in the front row there.
Sure.
What percentage of the Earth's atmosphere is carbon dioxide?
Is that the 0.00?
That's right. The answer is less than 1%, 400 parts per million. A ridiculously infinitesimal amount as it is. Our carbon dioxide output in the United States has dropped. We're doing our part to rid the output of carbon dioxide, which is not a pollutant and not even a full percentage of the Earth's atmosphere. It is also a nutrient plants need. A warmer planet is not as great a threat as a cold planet. Cold kills people. And when we go into deep freezes and you and I can't stay warm and we're not going to be able to charge our cars that they want us to drive, they are setting us up for calamitous disaster. One good freeze, one good snow, all of us driving plug-in cars, and a power grid that can't keep up because we don't use coal and we don't use gas. We just wait for the sun and the wind. Do you understand what third world lunatic bat crap crazy stuff that is? I know that you do. This is interesting. BlackRock. This is a story from earlier in the week from Just the News, which is sort of a companion piece I'd been sitting on. 17 attorneys general are trying to stop BlackRock. Big investment, It's kind of the vanguard, if you will. BlackRock, trying to stop BlackRock from doing what? Buying up utilities. Now, wouldn't that be interesting? Look out. Big investment firms running around the country buying up utility companies. Then what? Can you imagine? We know BlackRock. We know their politics. So rather than a single piece of legislation ever having to be passed, rather than the EPA even passing rules, the EPA just picks up the phone and calls their buddies at BlackRock and says, hey, guys, you own all these power plants now. You know what to do. So there are some attorneys general out there thinking sharp, 17 of them looking to block BlackRock from making blanket purchases of utilities. This is a story to keep an eye on. It's not sexy. I realize there's a lot of other stuff that distracts and is interesting, like our extraordinarily corrupt, bought and paid for president and his family, which is a huge and destructive and alarming story. And yes, our southern border being invaded. Yes, stipulated. All of that and so much more. Alarming. But for the welfare of you, me, and every American in this country, pay close attention to our power grid and what is supplying your power and mine and what they want to do to end it. The Marine, the subway rider in New York City, who took the homeless guy, Daniel Penny is this Marine. He's 24 years old, a Marine veteran, college student. He put 30-year-old Jordan Neely in a chokehold on a train after Jordan Neely, as you remember, was running around the train screaming and yelling and threatening people. This Marine put him in a chokehold. This Jordan Neely died. Well, guess what? He's now been charged by that same radical lunatic Manhattan DA. You're starting to feel up against it, folks. You're starting to feel like the good guys are up against it here. I mean, we know who wins in the end, folks, but I have to say that it, as you look at the headlines, this seems the chaos and the attacks on good people standing in the breach. The bodega owner who was defending his store after his life was threatened, he stabs the assailant. The assailant dies, and he's charged with the death, the bodega owner. Now this Marine, who everybody on the train was grateful he was there and stopped this menacing, threatening homeless guy from perhaps doing something violent and dangerous. Everyone on that train, everybody who saw that video understands what he was doing and was glad he did it. And now he's going to be charged. The Department of Homeland Security is using hard-earned tax dollars to smear and censor Americans they deem guilty of spreading dis, and mal-information. DHS debuted a disinformation governance board April of last year, and Nina Jankowicz, incidentally, remember her? This is the lunatic Disney woman. Remember Nina Jankowicz?
Information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious.
Right. The Disinformation Governance Board, with the intent to curb dissent via pressure on big tech companies after facing pushback from free speech advocates who accurately worried about the government's First Amendment overreach. The board was disbanded, but the Biden regime's commitment to policing thought and speech continued. The chairman of the committee, Dan Bishop, opened the hearings yesterday by saying that this particular DHS board was the tip of the iceberg of their censorship laundering schemes. Republicans on the subcommittee and most witnesses agreed that underground government-led censorship efforts, especially by the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, pose a major threat to American citizens that, if left unchecked, will worsen. Jonathan Turley, what we are seeing, thus far, he said, and we've only seen a fraction of the complex of censorship in the United States government, is a censorship system of breathtaking size. I remind you, Jonathan Turley, no Trumper, he voted for Hillary. Jonathan Turley voted for Hillary Clinton. He's admitted that himself. He's a Democrat. What we are seeing, and we've only seen a fraction, is a censorship system from the United States government of breathtaking size. And yeah, that lunatic Nina Jankowicz, she's suing Fox News. I guess if there's a week to do it, now's the time to jump in the pool, right, Fast Eddie? She figures better strike while the iron's hot.
I was going to say that everybody's jumping in on the Fox News, babe. Here we go.
She's launched a defamation suit alleging the network published false reports about her that endangered her life. So you see, back to this running theme, AOC has perpetrated this as well, that Tucker Carlson and Fox News, anybody that speaks out against these people is endangering them. So again, government moves to endanger your life and mine. Government moves on your life and mine. Our border is wide open. They're moving on our energy grid. They're making everything harder, more expensive, more dangerous in our major American cities and our way of life. They do these things to you. They make your life a living hell. And then when you have the audacity to speak out against it, they say that endangers them. So follow this. The people in power who are making your life harder and more expensive are in danger when you speak out against them. You got that running theme now? That's the way this works. We're going to beat the hell out of you, and if you speak up about it, you're threatening me and you're endangering me, and I'm going to sue you and make sure you stop speaking out, and I'm not going to give you a place to speak. I'm going to try to stop you from being even allowed to speak on any. We're not going to give you a platform, as we discussed yesterday with AOC. We're not going to give you the platform to disperse your hate against me. Little old me who has all the power and authority over you to crush you like a bug. They're the pitiable ones. AOC, Nina Jankowicz, the Biden administration, the poor, meek little government officials feel threatened from your speech when you speak out against them. This will be the running theme to keep all of us who dissent and who oppose them in check. Lawsuits, talk of deplatforming. This is the strategy. They're in power. You're not. You speak out against their power. You're threatening them. You're menacing them. You're a physical threat to them. And as such, you must be stopped, maybe sued, perhaps jailed. It's quite a trick. It really is quite a trick, isn't it? I pray most Americans understand this. No matter what political side they're on. I really do. But look, if you vote for these people, I suppose you don't. If you cheer these politics and these policies, when these people rise up and they say, I'm threatened, I feel this is the Democrats' new way, and they've been doing this since January 6th. We're threatened. They're coming after us. Why, we're just trying to mind our own business here in government and run the country, and all these awful mean people keep speaking out against us and opposing us. We're just delicate little flowers here trying to peacefully govern the country, and they keep attacking us and threatening us. And places like Fox News and talk radio give people platforms to make us less safe. And they always come up with these gaslight scenarios of all the social media attacks that are happening to them. Their lives are being threatened. Their family is threatened. And yet, what have we seen actual evidence of? We've seen Supreme Court justices' lawns and homes. I mean, we've seen literal physical threats to Supreme Court justices over rulings. Legal rulings that, by the way, weren't even released yet at the time over a leak. The times are precarious. There is no doubt about it. And I don't mean to start the show off by depressing you and dispiriting you, but this is a time to gird yourself and know what you're made of. And know where your Well, this was something I gave a bit of a talk last night. I'll tell you a little more about that in a bit, but this was sort of the running theme. God is on the throne, and ultimately our power it can't come from these people. It can't even come from the United States. I love this country and we want to defend her, but ultimately your power, your protection, your future. The Lord knows it, and I spend more time these days rather than obsessing over these people, telling you about them, thinking about them, praying over it. But I spend a great deal more of my time trying to keep my own house in order, if you know what I mean, my own spiritual house in order. I strongly suggest as we try to navigate the next couple of years, you spend some more time in a community of faith, whatever that looks like for you, because you're going to need it. We're going to need it. This kind of thing can grind you down and wear you down to such a degree you just want to fold. And it can get us all in a very, very depressed and dependent and subservient state. And the only thing that keeps you strong and girded and boosted for the fight, if the fight is what you choose to engage in, is a faith in something greater than yourself. That's all I'll say. And for a very, very long time, this sort of stuff just made me want to turn to Crown Royal. And that's not going to be the way forward. That's not going to be the way out of this stuff. I just want to tell you that. I just felt like that should be my Friday message to you. Okay, former President Trump issued a warning from Mar-a-Lago. You may have heard it. He said, quote, "Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years." That's a direct quote from Trump. Well, central banks are reducing their U.S. dollar holdings. That's true. They're increasing their gold inventory. That's true. There are a lot of people that believe serious threats to the future value of the U.S. dollar are very real because of inflation and deficit spending and our increasing national debt. Now, listen, I don't give financial advice, and I'm not going to start now. But one thing that has withstood the test of time, famine, wars, economic upheaval, gold. And you can own it in a tax-sheltered retirement account with the help of Birch Gold. You know, Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k, maybe from a previous employer, into an IRA in gold. And the best part is you don't pay a penny out of pocket. Now, if you want more information on this, if this sounds interesting to you, I hope you will investigate it and research it. I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I want you to reach out to the people at Birch who do business with the show. They want to talk to you about it. You can decide with them. Just text Chris to 989898, and they're going to send you a free information kit on gold. It's free. No obligation, no charge, but you can do some more reading, and I always encourage you to do that. Text Chris to 989898. Now, in March of this year, when the banks faltered and the stock market faltered, gold surged. Well, Birch Gold can help you find out how to protect your savings with gold. Birch Gold has an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers. So investigate them. Text Chris to 989898 and get your free information kit on gold. Again, that's Chris. Just text it. Text Chris to 989898, and happy reading. What a thrill it was last night. We were at the Marriott in Conshohocken, which is a beautiful hotel, right? For those of you that listen elsewhere and aren't familiar with the area, that's just to the what would be the east of the city, I guess, just the city proper, right? Or west, rather, excuse me, just to the west of the city proper. I also know that when you're trying to get back on the highway to leave that place, if you don't take the right exit, you will wind up back in Philadelphia whether you want to or not. That is something I learned last night while I was leaving in the dark. I'm not very familiar with Conshohocken, so I mean, I've gone down there, of course, a few times, but I certainly don't drive around there at night. And there's that one split, where you're about to hop back on the Schuylkill, and if you don't take the correct, there were work crews in the lane to go west, and so I just took it to mean it was shut down. Well, then I ended up veering to the exit to go east, and I guess I had forgotten in all the years, since the show has moved here to Lafayette Hill, I haven't driven the Schuylkill in forever, like all the way into the city, and wow, that's the only exit until you hit City Ave, Belmont. But I was like, this I'm on this thing all the way in now. So I took a nice tour of the city last night after the event passed, Eddie.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. That Marriott, it's beautiful. A lot of great events there, but oh my gosh, you're either headed to Manayunk or you're headed to King of Prussia, and man, if you miss it.
That was what a nice night it was. It was Phyllis Schlafly, the great conservative patriot and warrior who lived, I think, into her 90s. Just a remarkable lady, and I was privileged enough over the years to MC these events and meet Phyllis a few times. I mean, she traveled all over the country to these. She had these chapters in every state all over the country, and every year when they have their annual dinners, wherever they may be, in Pennsylvania, particularly in Philadelphia, when they were hosted here, I was invited three times to MC the event while Phyllis was present. And that lady, I mean, again, as I say, into her 90s, and she was showing up at these things. She'd fly in. I think she still called Missouri, the St. Louis area, home, but she'd fly in and she'd speak. And a lot of conservative luminaries, people running for everything from school board to county commission to judges in the room. Great patriots all. Stan Costachio and MJ from the Pittsburgh chapter, Andy, and the whole board of the Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. They put on a beautiful night, and they awarded the show with the Truth in Journalism Award, which, you know, I as I said last night, it felt a little. I'm deeply appreciative, but it's frustrating that we live in an era, right? It feels almost silly that one would get an award for telling the truth. But unfortunately, I recognize, and I know this audience does too, that it's in short supply. The people that will look you right in the eye and just gaslight you. I mean, Alejandro Mayorkas, our Homeland Security Secretary, looks everybody in the eye yesterday and says our borders are secure. Don't come here. The borders aren't open. We had when the Washington Post has to acknowledge we had the largest single day of illegal migrants crossing after Title 42 ends, and he says the borders aren't open, you know that's not true. That's just but one of many, many, many examples. I mean, we could go down the line. In fact, you know what? I did that. I wasn't going to do this. But there was one part last night because I was sensitive to people's time. I had a speech that I could have really gone on a stem winder fast, Eddie, but I edited my remarks because I was sensitive to the fact that, number one, it was Game 6 last night for Sixers fans, and I was not going to take any more time than necessary to make my comments. So I deeply edited my comments. One of the things that I was going to do last night, and I decided to abort, was just tick off a list of the lies. Just full-throated, provable lies and misinformation and mistruths, because that's why we were there last night. The Phyllis Schlafly Eagles gave us the Truth in Journalism Award, and I said, it's a shame that people of goodwill can't all at least agree. Here are the problems. Here are the truths. Now, we can debate solutions to these things, but here are the problems. We're not there anymore. Obviously, now we're in a different era where they'll look you right in the face and lie to you. So I made a list of the things that have just been stone cold lies. Shall I go over a few of them? This seems like maybe now that I've got runway, maybe now I can't go anywhere till the show's over anyway, so I may as well. Right. It's my show. See, I'm sensitive when it's not my award ceremony, but different. I can hog the time when it's my own show.
Rhetorical question then there.
Yeah, that's right. So this was just literally yesterday. I sat down before the awards banquet. And by the way, thank you to you and your wife. I was really kind of uncomfortable, though, that you dragged your lovely wife to that thing. I don't know what kind of torture are you doing to your wife is not, and mine was not for years. She's changed a little bit that way, but my wife once upon a time was not at all remotely interested in politics. She just didn't pay attention to it. That's not besmirching, just saying that wasn't her bag. You know, when you're a young mother, you've got other things going on. You're working, you're raising a child, you're busy. It's hard. So when I saw that you were bringing your wife, I thought to myself, that's for somebody that's not into this, that's a fresh hell. So I hope she at least had a cocktail.
Oh, she did.
Okay,
That's what, we're from Philly, so you say open bar, we're there.
I have to say it was really very, very nice. Most of the team here at Philadelphia's AM 990 The Answer and my Salem Media Group colleagues showed up last night to show support, and that was so sweet of you all. Sincerely, there were a lot of other places you could have been and probably would have rather been. And when I found out a lot of you were coming, that was very, very nice, including Mary. By the way, Mary Campbell. Most of you don't know her, and you will never meet her, but she's an account executive. She sells for Salem Media Group. She sells advertising. I don't think she minds sharing this, Fast Eddie. Does she share this publicly? I feel like this is sort of public knowledge, right? And you know what I'm about to say.
Yeah, I think. And she has the book of business in this area.
She's literally one of the most successful salespeople in the entire country. I mean, Salem Media Group owns, stations all over the country. And now in the digital media era, so there are lots and lots, hundreds of people that sell media for Salem Media Group across the country. And Mary is one of the top sellers in the country. Folks, Mary, I'm not making this up. You'd never know it. You would never know what I'm about to say is true. She was there last night. She stayed for the whole night. She was there I don't know. I didn't get out of there till 10 o'clock. She was there till the end. Mary's in her 90s, folks. I said 9 zeros. Mary Campbell's in her 90s. And, if you looked at her, you would never know it. I don't know what 90 looks like, but it ain't Mary. And the woman there is no quit. And she loves the Lord, and she is one of the sweetest, brightest lights in the company. In fact, the president of the company came in from Camarillo, California, and awarded her with distinction this year as one of the longest tenured, longest serving, brightest luminaries in the Salem Media Group family. So it was just I found myself sort of overcome to see her sitting there last night. That was just incredible. So thanks for coming out. That was awesome. And again, to Stan and the Eagles, the Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, just a great, great night. And if I had the chance and the privilege to meet you last night, thank you for coming up and saying hello. My remarks, I think what I'm going to do, for those of you that might be interested, I don't know, I did about 10 minutes of prepared remarks. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is put those remarks, if you're interested, up on the Harumph Society. So once I get the video of that, I'll probably post that at the Harumph Society. This would be, if you're interested in that and you want to know all the full context of everything I said, I'm going to share with you the edited version, the edited part that I took out last night for time. But if you want to see it, join the Harumph Society. It's just $30 this week anyway. Go to chrisstigall.com and you can go right there, go to Substack, look for the Harumph Society, and you can join it. So here we go. I just made a list of all the things that I could think of off the top of my head ahead of last night that are just stone cold lies. They continue to say over and over and over again, the election was not rigged. There was no election interference. That's probably one of the greatest lies and one of the greatest gaslighting moments in American history. Of course it was rigged. Of course it was rigged. The Hunter Biden laptop, the memo, do you know that 51 government officials signed off on a memo that said the Hunter Biden laptop was not even a real thing? 51 former government agents signed a letter that said the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation and not even a real thing. We all know now it is, of course, a real thing. And do you know that well over half of the people that signed that letter are Biden givers, literal donors to his campaign? Correspondence we now have in front of us, physical documentation and proof that they coordinated a letter to help Joe Biden, to give him a talking point, to keep the American public in the dark. On top of that, social media and mainstream media colluded with the government to keep Americans in the dark about the Biden family's financial dealings. That is election interference. And that's just but one instance. Again, we don't even have to go over the machines or the ballots or the ballot harvesting or it doesn't even, or the unconstitutional way in which we conducted our elections. Legislatures who are supposed to set rules for elections, overridden by secretaries of state and judges. I don't even have to do all that. there was election interference. It is provably true. It's called the Hunter Biden laptop. COVID. Enough said. The lies and the misinformation about COVID. Masks didn't work. The shots didn't work. People lost their jobs over those damn mandates. It's all over now. Oh, it's over. The emergency's over. Everything's over. Sorry about the masks. Sorry about the shots. Everything's fine. You know, I have some colleagues in broadcasting who just received a memo internally from their broadcast company literally this week that said, hey, about that vaccine mandate thing, I think we're just probably going to drop that now. So sorry. After they terminated scores of employees for not taking the shot, refused to allow other people to be hired or even enter their buildings, they send out a memo this week and say, sorry, never mind. Closing schools and churches, what that led to, the lies that needed to happen, the lies. Folks, that was all based on lies, that our children had to be segregated and locked out of school, and our churches had to be closed. And what did that bring us? Loneliness, suicide, chemical dependency. Skyrocketed. Our kids, the proficiency in things like math and civics, the suicide rate, all based out of lies, the COVID lies. Again, I'm just going over a list of sincere, genuine lies that we have battled. You and I have been battling over just the last few years. Roe versus Wade being overturned. Abortion's illegal. No, it's not. Abortion's not illegal. You can get abortion all you want in places like California, Pennsylvania, New York, and so many other states. Now, yeah, it's a states' rights issue. Here's the truth. What was always a lie? What was always a lie is that there was a constitutional protection to abort a child. That was always a lie. The truth has always been this was an issue only states could settle, and they are now. It does not ban or end abortion. I wish it did, but it doesn't. It's a states' rights issue. Went over this earlier, we don't control the Earth's atmosphere, folks. That's a lie. And there have been generations of people convinced that CO2 is a pollutant. No, it's not. It's a nutrient. We do not control the temperature of this planet. And CO2 is not a pollutant. And a warmer Earth is not as dangerous as a cold and cooling Earth. People die from cold, not heat. China controls most of the mining and manufacturing related to solar panel and electric car battery manufacturing. These are truths you're not told. Batteries that the Chinese make, highly toxic, made by countless of abused men, women, and children. Whales and dolphins washing ashore, almost 40 of them since December of last year, up and down the coastline of New Jersey and New York. Media just doesn't tell you about it. And they just lie that it's definitely not about wind farms. Wind farms are definitely not killing marine life. Electric cars. Most people don't want them. Most people certainly can't afford them. And even if we were all driving them, do we have an electrical grid that could support it? No, they don't tell you that, though. Coal, oil, natural gas, cheap, they're plentiful. We can use them cheaply, safely, responsibly to power every one of our needs and more. And if not those, nuclear, the safest and cleanest of them all. Don't use them, not using them. We're crushing, stomping all of that out. We have enough coal and natural resources to power our future for generations, like our lifetimes times 10. The border, that's a given. The border is, of course, wide open. It is a lie to say it's closed. We had the biggest single day of illegal migration yesterday while they stood there and told you and stared you in the face and said the border is closed. It's a lie. The public. Look, there are heartbreaking stories out of Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. There are many, many, many thousands struggling, dying, losing their lives. They're terrible, tragic stories. That's a real conflict. I'm not disputing that. But what's our end goal? What does victory look like? Is that something you and I can understand? Has there been a stated goal? Has there been a stated goal that we're going to achieve in Ukraine? No. They just keep saying whatever it takes, as long as it takes. That's not what the American public feels. But that's what they just keep saying, and that's bipartisan, by the way. That's both Democrat and Republican. How about a Chinese spy balloon? How about the lies on that thing? It was nothing. 7 days, a spy balloon floated overhead? It was just, the wind was just taking it wherever it went. No, it was actually, we now know, it was collecting sensitive data, and it was being steered for 7 days. A Chinese spy balloon. They shrug it off. The president, the guy we're pretending is president, shrugs it off. Inflation, it's easing, it's slowing, and that's good news. No, it's not. That's not good news at all. I have a story in front of me today, as a matter of fact. Home buying costs could spike by 22% if we don't raise the debt ceiling. There's another one from earlier in the week. Seniors, nearly half of baby boomers have no retirement savings at all. None. Inflation is easing. No, prices are still rising. That's a lie. That's gaslighting. If prices are still rising, it's becoming increasingly more expensive to function every day in this country, which is leading to less and less disposable income for you and me. Young earners are struggling. Retirees are struggling. They're feeling it the most. Inflation easing. The economy's improving. No, it's not. It's a lie. Raiding a former president's home for the exact same thing the sitting president has done 3 times over. Keeping documents in places he shouldn't. Seriously? We raided a former president's home? While the guy we're pretending is president now kept documents behind his Corvette in the garage? January 6th was not a deadly insurrection. It wasn't an insurrection at all. And the only death that day was an unarmed woman named Ashley Babbitt. Afghanistan, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, was that successful? No. 13 service personnel died in a terribly botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. It wasn't a success. It was nothing to be proud of. It was a national disgrace. China. The media doesn't tell you this. They are the biggest threat this country faces. The world faces. It's not Russia. And by the way, our president and his family, 9 of them we now know, have been on the take from places like China and Romania and Ukraine. Media doesn't tell you that. DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, critical race theory in our schools and in our military. What is that meant to do? Weaken and divide and destroy those institutions on purpose. You've been told that people who minister outside abortion clinics and parents who speak at school board meetings are enemies of the state and deserve FBI surveillance and maybe SWAT teams raiding their home and putting them in shackles. These people are heroes. They're not enemies of the state. And then, of course, the biggest lie of all, the pit of hell lie of them all, the granddaddy, in my view, of all the lies that are told. You can change your gender. There are only 2 genders, ladies and gentlemen. You're born one of them, and you can't change that ever. And whispering in secret to our school children that can be something teachers can keep between them as you help usher your children. That's as I said, this is what I said last night. This stuff is from the pit of hell. This is supernatural darkness. That's a supernatural lie. That's bigger than just a political lie. Most of the things I just mentioned were political lies. This has deeper consequence than that. When we've debased our culture to the point that we now are questioning whether men are men and women are women and whether you're born one or the other and you can change it if you want, if that starts to take hold, we're in a place, we're like in an artificial intelligence place. We're like in a video game now. That pit of hell stuff cannot be tolerated. Gender-affirming care is gender-denying care. Butchering children in the name of care should be banned, outlawed. People should be jailed for participating at anywhere they're found on minor children. So, yeah, I mean, last night, I say thank you. Thank you for the Truth in Journalism Award from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, but that is stuff, all that stuff, those are just truths that I was telling. But all of those things are the lies that you and I have been fed, and most people perpetuate the lie. Fewer and fewer of us with microphones and cameras actually dispute those things. And you can start to feel like the walls are closing in. That was the thrust of my message last night. I won't recount it here. I'll probably put it up all at the Harumph Society, but that's an overwhelming list. And that was just a list, Fast Eddie, that I came up with impromptu before the evening. There's probably more. I'm sure there's many more people could call and share off the top of their head that are lies that we've been living through. But that's just immediately what popped into my head, and that's a pretty healthy list. It's every day. We come here every day, and we're like, that's not the real. We're not living what they're saying. They're completely denying what is real. The crime in our cities, we're just supposed to pretend isn't real. The homelessness, we're just supposed to pretend isn't real. Just ignore it. It's not happening. It's fine. No, it's not. We're poorer. We're less safe. Everyone knows it. And they just keep telling you all is well. Everything's fine. Shut up, you. And by the way, you sound a little critical. Might need to do something about you. You're dangerous. So, if in some small way this show is a source of truth, honored to accept the award, but it is what people of goodwill, certainly people that believe in a maker and justice and divine retribution. If I tell you what, if you're a believer and you aren't in line with those things that I just said, good luck to you. I'm not your judge and jury, but I tell you, you'll have to answer for it someday. If you peddle the falsehoods, there will be justice one day. It may not be here on earth, but there'll be justice one day. I would strongly suggest that everybody get their minds right about that. I do believe that in my heart and soul. You know the jingle, right? For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com. It's true. It really is the best night's sleep in the whole wide world. I've been sleeping on MyPillow 2.0 for the last few weeks, and it is so comfortable. Can I be honest? I didn't really buy the whole Mike Lindell patented adjustable fill thing. I didn't know what that meant, adjustable fill. I was like, yeah, sure. The pillow's going to go flat. It doesn't go flat. You know how you buy a pillow at the store and you're like, oh, that's nice, and you sleep on it for a couple of days? I got a big, fat, heavy head. And all it takes is a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of nights where I get a little warm, and all of a sudden that pillow just, and a couple of weeks my neck is cricked, and it's miserable. I've never had luck with pillows. Well, I tell you, this fill that My Pillow talks about and Mike talks about, it is adjustable, and it constantly stays. You adjust it at night, and your head is like even. It's not like cranked down. It's like I haven't laid on a pillow night after night for weeks that keeps my head even with my shoulders, but this pillow does. And now, because it's My Pillow 2.0, you say what makes it more special? Well, they've got a new fabric that dissipates heat and humidity on top of that. So it stays cool all night long. There is no flipping to the cool side of the pillow. The pillow stays cool. So it's that firmness and adjustability that you like, and it's also now cool to the touch. The fabric is soft. It's great. Couple that with the Giza Dream Sheets, the My Pillow body pillow. I feel like I'm sleeping on a cloud every night. I really have slept like a baby lately. Christine loves her My Pillow slippers. I sent my entire Chris Stigall Show team My Pillow travel pillows. Got a dog bed for Eddie and his dog. Dean, my dog, sleeps on a My Pillow dog bed. One of my associate producers is loving his Giza Dream Sheets and the slippers. Look, if you want really high-quality stuff, is it the cheapest? No. I'll just be honest with you. I know some people say, oh, it's expensive. Well, look, it's made in America. It has a 60-day money-back guarantee. It has a 10-year warranty on every single product Mike sells. So it's well made, and he stands behind it. So look, that comes, with a bit of a cost associated with it. That's true. You want something cheap and Chinese? Fine. Now, you're not going to find that at MyPillow. But if you want a really great discount on that, go to MyPillow.com and use my name, Chris Podcast. If you type in Chris Podcast, it lets them know you listen, and I appreciate it. So the promo code is Chris Podcast. That gets you the discount on the stuff. You get a second MyPillow 2.0 if you order one. Chris Podcast is the code at MyPillow.com or call 800-932-5056.
The Chris Stigall Show Podcast.